Welcome, beautiful souls. As you arrive in this moment, take a gentle breath and allow yourself to become present with whatever is unfolding inside you right now. Today's conversation is an invitation to slow down, listen more deeply, and reconnect with the wisdom that lives beneath the noise of everyday life. I'm honored to welcome Jasmina Sabi. Jasmina's work lives at the intersection of awareness, self discovery, and embodied truth. She carries the presence that invites reflection, not by telling you who to be, but by creating a space for you to remember who you already are. Her journey, like so many of ours, has been shaped by lived experience, inner questioning, and a willingness to explore what's real beneath the surface. And today she joins us to share insights, stories, and perspectives that may gently stir something within you. So as you listen, you may begin to see parts of yourself more clearly, hear truths that feel familiar yet new, and feel a quiet sense of recognition as this conversation unfolds. Welcome, Jasmina Sabi.
Welcome to my show, Yasmina.
Thanks for having me.
So, tell me about your journey.
They have you have to go through military boot camp, and I've kind of seen the shows. I feel like it was like 100 times worse than that. It was constant pain. And I wanted to understand, why do I keep feeling this pain? I definitely went through the stages, I guess what database would show of like, okay, I'm 19 trying to figure out, I'm 25, I got it all figured out. And then you really start thinking like, okay, I don't have it figured out, or I believe I did. I started thinking like, what is happening? How do I get to happiness? How do I get there with pure intentions is what was really the struggle for me, because I knew I could do this or do that to get money. And I definitely went through that experience where I was in relationships, and I learned, I feel like I disregarded luxury items or material stuff when I was like 24 because I was with this man and he had a lot of money. But every time he did something mean, he would try to buy me something. And I was like, that doesn't seem correct to me. Like, do you feel? That's the first thing. Do you feel? Like, are you sorry? Are you And I realized, like, this is a big thing that's gonna keep me confined if I feel like this person can just buy me something. And I started shopping at Walmart. I was like, I'm never buying name brand shoes or things like this again because this person feels like they can do whatever they want to me because they have money. And I remember we had moved into a house together, and after 2 months I left. And I remember my family was like, "Are you crazy? What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "What's wrong with me? Do you not hear everything I'm telling you that he's doing?" It was like, "Well, they teach you to play this game." That's what I'll say. I remember my mother and father were like, "Look, just let him feel like he's right. You need to get yourself together. You don't have this, you don't have that." And I said, "That doesn't seem correct to me because then my children are going to see me being controlled." And my mom kept talking. I said, "I don't care about nothing you're saying. I will see you this afternoon and I'll be living in your living room until I figure it out." And I did that for like 8 months. But I remember what really transformed me, this book called The Secret. I kept hearing about this book and I was like, here we go with another spiritual book. You guys always had the Bible and you use it to do all these mean things. I didn't want to read the book, but I had a friend who gifted it to me. And I said, okay, I'm going to read it out of respect that she gave it to me. And I started reading it. I never read the whole book. I got to like halfway through and I was like, this is correct. I don't need to read anymore. Like, it's what I'm thinking. And if I believe that, that's why I'm staying in this space. And so I started telling myself, like, this is what I want. I don't want to stay in this confined space because I operate as a prostitute for a really, really long time because I grew up in a background that was, like, so chaotic. I just remember every time my mother spoke, it was, "I don't know how I'm gonna pay this. I don't have any money." And then she would get in these relationships like, "Well, he's helping me." And I was like, "Is this help? We're still sleeping in the living room." And so when I got pregnant, I was like, "Oh my god, I don't want my son to grow up in this neighborhood," because the neighborhood, I'm like, I'm pretty sure, I don't know if Las Vegas well, but there has to be gangs and stuff around here. And I remember my mother would work like 3 jobs, but I just always remembered she was too exhausted to talk to us or see how we felt. So I said, "Well, I'm not gonna work a bunch of jobs because then I won't have any energy for my son." And then I was like, if I go to school, so I tried that. I said, let me go to school. And oh my goodness, I realized I was only seeing my son like maybe 1 hour a day. And I started crying. And I was like, what do I do here? And I remember I responded to an ad that said escort agency, and it always says no black women. I think the adult industry is truly the only industry that could say, I'm looking for this preference and nobody gets mad. We're just like, all right, whatever, we get it, Uh, granted, I guess if you said that today, people say, oh, they can't say that. And it's like, we really didn't care. Like, that's your preference. That's your preference. We understand, whatever. We're not going to think deep into it. But I didn't realize what type of field I was entering in. I didn't know the mindset behind that category. I didn't know that people would feel like you hold those same mindsets. And I realized I got a lot of different treatment and I really didn't understand. I was like, why are people so angry and mad at me? I'm not doing anything to you. And then they were like, you need to do something else. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I need help with my son. And with my family, they had their own way of don't tell me how to raise this child. I raised you and you're perfectly fine. And I'm like, I'm not fine. Like, you tell yourself that. So, I don't know why you tell yourself that, but I'm clearly not fine. So I had to pay for daycare. And I was just in that realm for like, yeah, basically over 10 years trying to think, how do I get out of this? Because I was making money, but then I realized people weren't respectful to me. And I lost a lot of respect for myself because I felt like there's something about me I don't realize, and I guess they realize it, and maybe I don't deserve respect, and then I had unconsciously tattooed myself to a degree that I was thinking to myself, like, I wanna look tough because I really wasn't. I just felt like I'm tired of people it feels like playing a game. I always felt that way in life, like, "What is this game? What is happening?" Granted, what fully unlocked me is I had a situation where I fell in love with this man, and I remember my brother telling me, he's a trick," and I'm like, "Why do you guys always use that word?" I don't look at this person that's giving me money as they're less than me. I actually felt very thankful because I was like, this just helped me pay my car note or this helped me. So that's how I was thinking. And I remember this one man had told me, like, you are a mother trying to make money for your children. And I'm like, well, duh. And he was like, "You should not be in this category." And I'm like, "Why not?" And people would say, "You're messing up the game." And I'm like, "What damn game? What is the game?" Like, I just didn't understand what the game was. I didn't understand what that was. And when I fell in love with this man, I remember my brother saying he's a trick. And I felt like what would have been helpful is if people, instead of saying trick, they said trickster. That registered more like, oh, they're trying to trick you into thinking that they care about you by paying you to care. And I'm pretty sure enough people heard me say that out loud, they'd say, "Duh." And I'm like, but, it just put me at pause because I was like, I don't feel like they care about me. There's nothing they could pay me to make me care unless I genuinely care. So I never had like sugar daddies because somebody made fun of me one day, like, haha, you never had a sugar daddy. And I'm like, well, why would I play that game? Like, they're looking for me to be a specific way, and I don't know how to do that, probably because I had so much trauma. So, I wasn't good at numbing myself, and plus I had a friend, every time she saw this man, she's like, "Oh my god, I just hate him," and she gets so mad, and I'm like, "Well, why are you doing that to yourself? Like, you don't wanna find another way to make some money?" And it was like, "But he helps me so much." I'm like, "But you're not happy." So I don't even know if it's, like, worth it. And people would say, like, "Well, so you don't have to see more people," but I just felt like, well, if I keep seeing somebody I don't like, that is going to affect me more because I constantly have to numb myself or pretend or act. And I didn't understand mental health or psychology, but I always heard the spirit, like, "You sure you wanna do that?" And that was the biggest thing I had to help me navigate not life was I would hear, "Are you sure you wanna do that? You don't wanna think another way?" And I just remember I always chanted to myself quietly, "I do not want to invoke pain in the world because I know what that feels like." And it's not I'm gonna get emotional, it's not a good feeling. And it's like, you can't pay me to invoke pain. Like, that's You just can't do that. And so when I operated as one, I never, like, manipulated someone or planned something. I think down here, I would say I had pure intentions about, I'll say 96% of the time, but every time I didn't, I learned my lesson. Like, I remember I went to jail and I was like, "What the hell?" And I was like, "How do they," and there was all these women in there just laughing because I got trespassed out of a casino, and I didn't really know what that meant. So I went back to the casino and they were like, "We told you you're trespassed." And I was like, "Oh, I'll just go." And they're like, "You're going to jail." And I was like, "I'm going to jail." Oh my god, they were about to call the ambulance. I think I started having a panic attack and I was about to pass out because I couldn't believe I was going to jail. And when I went, those women were just in there like, "Oh, yeah, not a big deal. I'll get back out there." And I was like, "Get back out there." And I was like, "I can't imagine to keep coming in here and, like, what a mind-boggling situation." Like, it didn't take, like, I didn't need 32 mug shots. I don't wanna come in here and be chained and be talked to like an idiot. And I just was like, there every time I feel like whenever you get in a situation that is, like, a pain that you feel you can't control, it's a sign, do you wanna keep going through this? And some people will get themselves to custom going through it for money. And I just always felt like there has to be another way. That's what I always kept in mind. There has to be another way that I can keep pure intentions and get what I'd like. And I feel like it was that's why I faced a lot of challenges because it was like, you're a prostitute. And to say you have pure intentions, what a joke. And so the man I fell in love with, what ended up happening was, I'm still trying to figure out how to word this better. I probably should like write a script so I can remember how to deliver it when I talk about it because it's still unfortunately not a good feeling. But I remember my brother's child's mother, she operated in the same category. And my brother got mad at me, and the girl, she was trying to please my brother. And then the man I fell in love with, he felt like, I guess I got pregnant on purpose. I don't know. And basically, the girl had formulated a relationship with him. And by the time I found out, it had been going on for, oh my God, almost a year. And I was like, what? Like, that just blew my mind. And the girl told me, "Your brother encouraged it." And I'm like, "My brother? The one that I bought in a car? The one I've been trying to rehabilitate? He encouraged it?" And I said, "This is why they don't want prostitutes or escorts and stuff around them, because they feel like you have no morals. It doesn't matter what it is, if somebody has some money, you don't care about who you're hurting." And that's when I got it. And I was like, I couldn't believe there was nothing to make them say, "Hey, that's not right." And I wanted to understand what the hell happened in their brain to formulate this plan. And people kept telling me surface talk like, "Well, he was a trick your brother suffered from." I'm like, I'm sick of this shit. So if I was a lawyer, I wouldn't experience this. If I was a judge, I wouldn't experience it's not possible. I'm like, "Do you not watch TV?" Because I started watching TV differently. Like, they're normalizing this shit. Like, this is not normal. And then what made me upset about the shows is they were smiling. I'm like, "What the fuck?" So I should just be moving on and smile. I'm like, "No." 'Cause, when I kept researching, what am I feeling? But it really started off me trying to understand, how did I fall in love with this man? How did I not know he was this was possible? And why did everybody around me know this except for me? There's a disconnect here. And then I read the book, The Secret. I had been in therapy, going every single week for like 3 years before I met this man, eating healthy, stopped drinking. So I'm like, if I did all that and I still felt this pain, there's something deeper I need to look into, because I looked up retail trauma and it said, "Oh, it takes 4 to 5 years to heal from that." And I was like, "What a fucking joke." 4th, and it said, "And that's with professional help and the support of your family." And I was like, "What?" Like, "No, I'm not gonna accept this." Because I said, I had a child with him, and I said, "How do I raise my child to love something I hate?" I have to figure out how to find love for this man again. And I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, how am I gonna do this? And I told my therapist, "Can we do trauma therapy?" And she said, "Well, it's hard to do trauma therapy when you're still dealing with the person." I was like, "Oh my God." So I had to search deeper what happened in my brain. what did I not see? And I unconsciously started studying biochemistry because somebody told me, like, you're speaking biochemistry. That's another thing down here. Every time I say something, they're like, you're speaking this, you're speaking that. And I'm like, all these damn categories. And I started, and once I understood how my brain was operating, the basics of the gene expression, it's been imbalanced since the beginning of time because people are so conflicted in their identity. Granted, science is saying science is still talking. They're like, why is this imbalancing? And then when I realized there was drugs in our brain, I was like, there's drugs in our brain? And people that were educated were like, yeah. And I was like, that should be national news. Like, do you know how many people don't know that there's drugs in their brain that's influencing their behavior? I said, no wonder somebody's on pills, drunk, and still has to have sex and weed. I'm like, they're trying to stabilize all the drugs in their brain. And once I understood enough how the brain started working, I don't know, it's like something happened where I felt like my spirit was like, "All right, let's go through your hardware." And it's like, "Okay, what's in here?" And oh my God, I felt like I was gonna go in psychosis. I was like, "Oh, this is how you have psych wards." I was like, "Now it makes sense." Because I didn't know how to ground myself because it was so much realization that really kicked in. I wanna say I ascended February 3rd. I hate to say awaken because I could talk to somebody that says I'm awoken. I'm like, "No, you're not. You got some more research to do." So I wanna move away from that word, I awaken. But I remember I was realizing all this information. I was like, "Oh my God, my brain's going 1,000 miles per hour." And I just heard this spirit tell me, like, "Hit some weed." And a joint could last me like 2 months. I don't smoke. And I was like, "Hit some weed." I'm like, "That sounds scary." And it was like, "Hit some weed." And I'm like, "Okay." And I always take baby puffs because 'cause I'm so scared. And it was like, "Hit it a little bit harder." And I was like, "Harder?" So I hit it harder, and I laid on my couch, and I was just like, and all of a sudden, I don't know what the hell happened. I was like, I just seen, like, the world, like, they're swimming in the ocean with the sharks. They're jumping off of airplanes. I was like, "We are the Bible!" And I was just, like, freaking out. I was like, "Should I go to the hospital? Like, what do I do?" And I just heard the spirit say, like, "Call your friend Elena." And I called my friend, and this phone call really changed my life because it felt like she was always, I guess, a conspiracy theorist. And I feel like the reason they have the title conspiracy theorist is because what is the point behind your messages? I just wanna let you know you're being controlled. Alright, what's the fucking solution? Just wanted to tell you that. That's very helpful. You know, like, what the hell is the solution here? Don't just give me all this information and you're not telling me what we're gonna do next. So I never wanted to let that information in because it sounded like it never came with a fucking solution. It just came with a bunch of trauma that, like, I don't need more added, you know, trying to sort through the database already. But I called her and I was like, I think she'll understand what I'm going through because I might sound like a conspiracy theorist. I was thinking to myself. And I remember I called her and she was like, "Oh, you're awake." And I was like, "How long have you been down here?" And she was like, "Yes, they're all robots." And I was like, "Oh my God. Oh my God." Because when I ascended, I was like, who is out there? Is it just me? Is there anybody else that thinks like this? Like, am I alone? And then I realized I had children. I was like, oh fuck, there's kids in the room. I felt like that movie, The Family Man. I don't know how many people have seen that, but I felt like I'm not your mom. Like, I'm not your mom. And I said, my God, I'm down here. That's what I just kept hearing. Like, I'm down here. And so when I was talking to her, she was like, just be nice. Don't say too much. I mean, she really made the shit sound like a damn movie. Like, just be nice. Don't say too much. And I was like, look, I cuss a lot. I'm working on it. But I was like, bitch, I'm not walking around here pretending. And I remember when my son was young, he came up to me and he said, Mom, I need to tell you something. I'm like, what? He was like, I feel like everybody's robots. And it's just me, you, and Naya that are real. And I was thinking, I didn't even know how to digest that because at the time I was drinking very heavily. Like I'd wake up drinking. And I said, son, I don't know what movie you saw. You know, I was like, what does that mean? And in that moment after I hit that weed, I said, this is what he was talking about. And I felt bad because I was like, damn, for him to have that realization. I think he told me this when he was 8. I was like, fuck, that's scary. And so once I had got myself together, the next day I was like, I'm gonna wake all these motherfuckers up. And I remember I told my son, and he was like, why do you wanna do that? And I was like, nobody has time for these games. I said, I'm not playing these games. Like, I see they don't even realize they are possessed. I guess the exorcism made that very broad. They said it was a demon. It's your brain. You're possessed by your brain. Your drugs are completely imbalanced in your mind. I mean, it's so imbalanced that I feel sympathy for the judge. They actually feel like they did something good that day. Like, you just told somebody you're going to die. And then you make them put their hand on the Bible, you guys' good old Bible, that says in your commandments, don't kill. The biggest one says, don't follow mankind. I said, is a prostitute worse than a judge? How do they really feel good about that? And I said, we got and but granted, I speak like this now, but I'm telling you, I think I was going through psychosis for like 2 months. Like, I was just like, man, I think I spoke to this one lady because I was like, okay, how do I speak? Because I was like, it's coming in clear. I know I have the verbiage, but I was scared. I remember crying, like, I'm scared. Please don't let me feel any more pain. I don't want to go out there. Like, I was scared. And I remember I just heard the spirit telling me, walk up and down the hill because I live on a hill. And oh my God, I was out there my neighbors probably thought I was crazy because I'm just walking up and down in circles, like trying to balance myself. Now they know there's drugs. I'm like, you gotta, that's why they say to exercise. I'm like, okay, it makes sense now. And I remember, and I guess that's how you get clear messages when you balance the drugs. And I said, see, they keep telling us to do all this shit, but they're not telling us why we need to do it unless you have somebody nice enough, I guess, to explain it to you. Oh, wait. They'll do it as long as you buy a $50,000 package or some dumb shit. And I'm like, this is fucking dumb down here. But I remember I was getting all these messages and I said, oh my God, they're gonna ask me what's my religion. But I was always told to never identify by one, which wasn't hard because my dad was Muslim and my mother was Christian, and now she's something else. And I was like, you guys literally use that as an instrument to be me. So it wasn't hard for me not to identify by religion. They just all seem very judgmental, or you have to follow order. I said, I understand the atheists even more. The atheist is the purest thing on this planet, if you wanna be honest. At least they're not going around committing all these messed up acts and then saying, "In the name of God." Why do you guys keep putting this shit on God? Because it says in the Bible, and I'm like, "You're supposed to read the Bible in modern day form." You guys keep reading it like we're still in caves. So if you see a part where it says God commanded that this person kill, maybe it was the brain that commanded for this person to kill. And God was in the background waiting for the person to look to them. Like, I'm getting a headache thinking about all this dumb shit because I'm like, they are really unconscious, like completely unconscious. And I was like, sorry, I just thought about that. Kind of went off somewhere real quick, trying to come back. But overall, it's like they need an awakening because they are normalizing pain, and that is the biggest problem. People do it so casually. "Oh, mom, this person didn't like me." You're gonna run across a lot of people that don't like you. Why the fuck do you wanna tell children? I actually made a video on my Instagram where I said, "If somebody tells you, this was good for you, it's gonna happen anyways," I said, "They're a fucking terrorist." Including your mother, your grandma, the pastor, whoever. That's literally the problem. You guys keep teaching each other. You're going to feel it anyways. So that's why it doesn't stop. Imagine if enough people said, no, you shouldn't be feeling pain. That'll really make somebody pause and think, like, why am I trying to initiate it? And it seems like there's not a loud enough voice. Like, I guess I'm pretty sure there's plenty of people that walk this earth ascended, but it's so much chaos, the noise is so loud. And how do you bring that down? Is what I feel like scientists are trying to figure out. I think you need to tell everybody you're all trash. That's the first step. You're all trash. Even you good old Christians. You were literally the reason for so much pain across somebody that says, I think I want to be with the man. Well, first of all, it's a normal fucking feeling. They actually go around and say, I can't believe you feel that. You're having a human experience. Your curiosity got to you. That curiosity might only last for a damn year. But no, you told them they're gay. Now it has lasted a lifetime. Like, it might have just been that year because women go through that. That means I'm bisexual for the rest of my life. Maybe it was just a curiosity. Maybe it was my brain trying to get high. So that's my spiel.
That's a pretty good spiel. Now, how do you adapt when you go out to the real world?
You said what?
How do you adapt when you go out to the matrix?
When I go out there, as I make them, we're not going to play with my mind. We're going to help you unlock yours. If somebody says something to me, why do you think that? That usually makes them pause right there. Why do you think that? And it's definitely on my Instagram. Woo, they mad at me. They are mad at me. You're ugly. You're this. Why am I ugly? Where did you get that from? Why did you say that? That's how I'm dealing with it. By asking them, why do you feel that? The biggest one is this black supremacist. I was like, here we go with this shit. The biggest division, the color of your skin. And then I remember he told me, well, I'm trying to understand why did God send us down here in all these different colors? I said, maybe because God wanted to see if you could show unconditional love no matter what the person looks like. Did you think about that? And he's like, okay, I got another one for you. We're done. Go process what the hell. No, go digest what I said and then process it and get back to me in 3 days. I had to tell him that the other day. I said, enough of this pollution. Like, like just take some time to process it. And he has been thinking, like, I think there's something to what you're saying. I'm like, yeah, your mother failed you. And that's my biggest thing is the mothers are unconsciously making their sons their husband, but then they point at the child molester. You're not doing the same thing. They're gonna be mad when I say that one. I just haven't said it on Instagram because I might get banned and I'm still building my audience. But I'm just saying, you were doing the same thing. You were getting comforted by your child because they're balancing your emotions. And you should not feel comforted by that. Granted, that's been taught. I mean, they're even using the Bible. Here we go again. Well, it says in the Bible to honor thy parent. I said, how the hell is honor and protect the same damn thing? It's not the same thing. That's why I'm like, trash. I actually made a post that said, just throw away your Bibles. You're not reading it correctly. And we're at the end anyways. They didn't like that. I said, I ain't lying. I'm connected. And sorry, I drift off sometimes. But when I was walking up and down the hill, I was getting these messages. And I said, they never had told me to ask the spirit what's its name because they made it seem like a demon thing. And I said, what is your name? And I heard the spirit say, my name is All. And I said, what the fuck does that mean? And I started really getting scared. And I was like, these people are going to think I'm crazy when I say all. But I spoke to my brother who's very heavily in his Bible. And he was like, that's a big Almighty God. And I said, I'm not going to say the Almighty God part. I think all is good enough. Like, imagine if people said praise all. Wars would probably stop. They're all busy fighting over the correct fucking name. I can't believe it.
So what if I were to tell you that we were in past lives together, you and I?
I'd say I'm going to go with it. If you feel that, okay.
Yeah,
I can see
because
that.
um, I did a past life regression, but I'm also a quantum healing hypnosis practitioner. And my past life, I was a German soldier.
A German shoulder, how interesting.
Yeah, and I had to come back here to go through all my trauma to pay back all the karma that I caused.
You know, it's funny you say that because I remember I've always spoke to spiritual advisors because they were nice to me, not the religious people. But anyways, I remember this one lady told me, what did she say? She said, you were an empress. And she said, but you were very selfish and you killed yourself because they took away your love who was a slave. And I was like, what the fuck? But when I always kept that in my mind because I always felt myself, you better not be selfish. You better not be selfish. You better keep pure intentions. And I was like, maybe there was some context to what that lady was saying. Because why do I feel like I have to make sure I'm not selfish? Yeah.
Yeah. So I believe what we're all going through is we're paying back our karma. And I believe like what all of us have done, whether it be good, whether it be bad, it's our way of paying back. Like even people who are intellectually disabled or physically disabled, they chose that life. They weren't born that way. They chose it before they came. That was their contract. That was their soul signing away, basically. And you could tear up your contract anytime you want if you don't want to go through the discomfort, because we don't like to say pain because pain kind of gives it that negative energy. But when you go through all that discomfort, then you're paying back your karma. So I had to go through years of trauma for me to wake up. And the way woke up is because I lost my mother and something inside of me said, enough's enough. It's time to make changes.
Yeah.
And that was when I stopped smoking drugs, stopped drinking, smoked cigarettes, started eating healthy, started to meditate. And that was when I started to do my awakening. And I went way down the rabbit hole and I seen how far this goes. And it's centuries of this shit.
I can only imagine. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, when I was like ascending, I was like, okay, I can't put too much information in because I was just like, I'm gonna get dementia when I'm 70. I started understanding all these diseases without even researching them. I said, yeah. And plus, I don't have enough people around me where I could have these type of conversations other than when I'm on podcasts. But when I'm on podcasts, I'm like, there's nobody to call. And they're more so like, "Are you okay, Yasmina?" And I had to make a video. I said, "If you guys think something's wrong with me, take that as a sign to get the fuck away from me. I'm not gonna explain to you what I'm saying. Like, if you don't get it, you're the type of person that's gonna need a massive audience to shift. So you're not a one-on-one talker." That's what I realized really quick. You're not a one-on-one talker. You're the type where you need a massive shift and you are going to shift to the environment. Whether you try to avoid, you can't avoid it. You're going to shift to the environment. So you're one of those people. You will see me later. I won't see you. You'll see me later, but I won't see you.
Yeah. Well, it's part of the process, right? When you awaken, it's very lonely and dark for a long, for, I don't know, it was probably 2 years for me when that I was lonely. So, I mean, my family, my friends, they're all like, you're fucking nuts. Like, fair enough. And then I realized that, like, they're all on their own journeys, right? And when they figure it out, it's going to hit them. I mean, one of my best friends broke his back in two. And they said, "You're never gonna walk again." And something inside of him said, "Nope, I'm gonna walk." And he walks. I
That's
mean,
what it
anything's
takes.
possible. Yeah, absolutely. And but it's our guide's way of telling us you need to sit down and relax and start to listen.
Yeah.
And we don't listen and we keep medicating ourselves. We keep drinking, we keep smoking instead of listening. And same with food. Like our body's telling us we don't want this processed food. Okay, let's shove a tum in our mouth. Let's shove an antacid in our mouth. Let's just burn down. And then we have like nothing left. Our esophagus, yeah, we've been taking pills. Yeah, we feel no pain, but our body is alive and we're killing it
Mhm.
just by doing that. And when I
Absolutely.
realized that everything is alive, like the ground we walk on, the food we eat, like when we actually cook our food, we kill it. We kill all the nutrients. And we've been eating nuts for so long the wrong way. You're supposed to soak your nuts for 12 hours and let them germinate, and the digestive enzyme comes out of them. And that's when you're supposed to eat.
That makes sense because it was something about them being so hard that didn't feel correct. I was like, I don't know. I think there's more to this. A lot of people are think I read somewhere said the brain is running on autopilot 90% of the time. And I said, well, that all makes sense. And I feel like the people I say that's running this world is the scientists. I said the scientists are the ones that's running the world. It's not money, it's not the president, it's the scientists because they understand how the brain chemistry works. Granted, I don't feel like they create all things. I think they see something created, they sit back and study it, and they come back like, hey, that has a huge effect, shut it down. Okay, this has, I said, poor science. Like, I heard this group, somebody had told me Enigma. Have you heard of that?
Migba? No,
Enigma.
no.
So, yeah, so I had made this post where I said, "Shout out to China, they run the world," and this person commented and said Enigma, and I said, "What the hell is that?" And I looked it up, and it is 1,400 over 1,400 scientists that are spread across 52 countries, and they study human behavior. And I said, this is the reason for these wars because it's probably and I think it started in California. I said, I bet the next one is somewhere in China, the top scientist. Sure enough, it was. I said, I knew it. And so I feel like how these wars start is like this country is over here, like, okay, what'd you figure out about the humans? And it's like, oh, nothing new. And it's like, nothing new. Well, your humans are performing a lot better than ours. And then they get mad. And now you have a war. So I said I sent them an email. I said, "Let me tell you guys something." Like, when I ascended, I was just like, "Enough with this shit." My friend, she got paranoid. She's like, "You emailed Enigma?" I was like, "Yeah. I wanna let them know I'm here, and I wanna let you guys know that there is nothing you could create that the humans are not going to overpower. That is what they're designed to do. They need an awakening of how their brain works." And I feel like when you get these big celebrities, I feel like they try, like, for instance, with Kendrick Lamar with the, Halftime show, he once again altered the neurotransmitters in people's brain and divided everybody again. And it was like, but do I think he knew he was part of a science experiment? I don't know. No. Because I'm like, if he really knew, like, hey, if you do this, it's going to alter everybody's neurotransmitters. But if you do this, it's going to bring us all together. Then maybe he would know. But that's the thing. If you are not conscious, well, now you're going to say the Illuminati made me do it.
Yeah.
Because they don't know why they're saying the things they're saying, operating the way they're operating, because somebody is looking at the statistics in the background and saying, "Hey, let's try this to see if we can bring down those numbers." And performers or celebrities can heighten the numbers. And so I do believe they will shut them down. Like Lizzo, I will never forget she went to that basketball game and she was basically naked, and I'm like and all of a sudden she got sat down because we already have a problem with people running around naked. If she did not get sat down, you know how many women would have showed up at basketball games half naked? So, they sat her down. You need some time to think about what you did. So that is where I feel like it could be a control thing, but I feel like it's you're not aware of how many people you are affecting with your antics. And I think that's why they call them the Illuminati, but it's like, are you thinking about are you just trauma dumping? Go see a goddamn therapist. No, they don't want to do that. They want to get on the internet and they want everybody to join in on the way they're fucking feeling, but you don't know how that person handles emotional responses, which makes it very dangerous. And that's what a lot of, I will say, millionaires are not conscious of. Because I honestly thought, oh, they know all this and they're hiding it from us. And then when I started looking at TV, I said, they don't fucking know. I was like, they're unconscious. They're unconscious too.
Well, I mean, the thing is too, you got to be careful with therapists too, because therapists are dangerous too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I had one where I don't take in anybody's information fully. I'm studying you and what you're telling me. And I remember I called this one therapist. Every time I called her, she was like, "Well, what you gonna do?" And I was like, "This shit sound like I'm talking to my auntie." And honestly, my auntie could probably give better advice. And I didn't go to therapy for 2 years. And when I met the second therapist, I feel like what would make a huge shift in therapy is they need to stop the confinement. Because I noticed every time I saw a therapist, they closely identified to me. And I said, I feel like they're keeping me confined to black go with black or whatever. And the final straw was this lady like fell asleep in the middle of my session. I was like, "You fucking kidding me?" And I called the office, like, I don't know how you guys are categorizing people, but you need to give me the smartest person in that building because I'm very smart. And it so happened to be a white woman. And I remember when I saw her, I'll never forget. I always tell her, I still talk to her today. I said she had that Del Taco bag. And I was like, what the fuck? This person's gonna help me fix my life. But it was a huge transformation because I feel like she learned something about the Black culture that she did not know. And I learned that wasn't normal. And she was just like, that was severe, severe abuse. And I'm like, it was? And she's like, that's literally the reason why you have been doing all this. And she was like mind blown looking at me like, damn, she really doesn't know that it had a huge effect on her life. And yeah, I feel like that's where therapy could really take a shift is if because then you have to become conscious. Because if the same person as your skin tone walks in, you're too relaxed. Now bring in a different opposite because it's going to heighten you again because that's an environmental shift. So you have no choice. You have to study again instead of just feel like you know this person.
True that. No, I love it. So, what's the plan for 2025, Yasmina?
Wake everybody the fuck up because I'm not playing this shit no more. and,
Love it.
And it's going pretty good. I'm like, my videos are going like viral because I'm not trying to do stuff where it's like, just kidding, because it's like, nah, then they're gonna feel like somebody's playing with my mind. So I am saying things where somebody says, "Hey, you made that. You still believe that?" Yes, I do, and let me tell you why. So I'm like, I have to get public recognition, and I'm like, how do I get my? Because I wrote a book. It's called "Am I Thinking Correctly?" and they put it in the self-help section. It can go to any section, but it's not that big. And I'm like, if people can read it, it'll be a natural thing for the brain to automatically rewire itself. But I'm like, they're not in what is it? Their attention span is fucking like a 2-year-old. So I'm like, okay, I got to get their attention publicly. Like, hey, look over here. Like, I'm trying to, hey, look over here. So that's what I'm working on. And thank you so much for having me on your show because when my name does get known enough, they're going to research, well, how does she really think? the same motherfucker every time. I'm not playing with nobody down here. So that is the mission for 2025, get public recognition. I actually have a post going viral on TikTok. Like when I say viral, I think it's finally going to get to maybe 1 million views. I said, I learned this from white women. And I've never heard a black woman say, I learned this from white women publicly. It's like, oh, don't you dare. And I said, you guys are in such control of your emotions. And it turned into a damn therapy session. They're like, actually, no, this is how I really feel. I had people inbox me like when I was a child, this how I'm like, God damn, like I didn't know that you guys went through that. And yeah, I was just like really shocked, like, damn, you guys went through this shit too. Why do we keep hearing it's just black people? And so it's nice to see that. So if somebody comes to me, it's like, why don't you go fucking take a look? They did go through pain. And I don't know why we were taught growing up white people never hit their kids. That's the biggest fucking lie, clearly, from what I've read. Like, they did get hit. And I don't know why we believe they never did.
Because we didn't really have the mindset for it. We weren't taught any of this, right? We were taught to get a name, an identity, go to school, raise your hand to go to the
Raise your hand.
bathroom, raise your hand to go to the bathroom, raise your hand to ask questions. We were
Uh-huh.
taught to be obedient.
Mm-hmm.
We were literally taught that from grade 1 to grade 12. And then we went to university. And then we were taught it even more. And now we go to a job and we're taught it even more. Because we don't, then we get disciplined. And then now they use safety. Safety is the thing. Now we got to use safety, and you get demerits, and like you're basically a child. Like, we are all children. And
Yes.
whether or not people want to believe it, you are a child. You may be 40, 50 years old, but you are a child at heart, my friend, because guess what? You have not grown up. You have not seen how to actually talk to people. You have not seen the way to understand, like, that this shit is all as an illusion, and that we are asleep, and we are basically sheep being led to slaughter.
Hell yeah.
Like a conveyor belt. We're literally winding. Once we retire, then we get to enjoy our life for like a short amount of years. And then we go to a senior complex where they give you poor food, drugs all the time, and basically kill you slowly. And you
Yeah.
get to
It's
die alone or amongst other people. And then they develop Alzheimer's, dementia. And it's
It's all
crazy.
and it's and the problem is with children, because I always listen to the spirit. I remember people were like, "You gotta teach your kids about God." And I said, "Something seems a little backwards about that." Like, I'm telling them what to think. And I remember I sat with the spirit and I said, "When do I teach them about you?" And I heard the spirit say, "Let them find me." And I got a little nervous because I said, "Well, what's gonna keep them grounded?" But I remember I heard, "Let them find me." And my daughter, she was 10, and she's like, "I feel like I wanna get closer to God." And I was like, "Where's that coming from?" Because 'Cause we've never had those discussions. And my son, he started buying his own clothes that said God, and I was like, "Oh, thank God." Like, they chose that instead of I implemented it in you. Granted, my family tried to come around like, "We're gonna read this Bible." I'm like, "Please stop with this nonsense," because you can't tell them what to think. We have to study them, and that's what no parent does. When the child is born, the mother is supposed to nurture, to say, "Hey, you're okay, you could do it." The father is supposed to say, "Hey, don't worry, I'm looking out for danger," while the child is walking and learning. I don't know who the fuck's doing that. I don't know who's doing that with pure intentions, probably by force, like, you gotta figure it out, but it's not a healthy, "Oh, we're supposed to study the child and see what they do and watch them and make sure they don't get hurt and let them experience who they are," because we also gotta learn, who did we just birth? They don't do that.
No, but they weren't taught that either. Like
Yeah.
I said, this goes down generations. Like, our grandparents didn't know this, great parents didn't know this. And the interesting thing is, we could have been our grandparents at one point too. Like, we don't know where our soul has been, and we take that identity with us to every life, because you have these moments where you have deja vu, and it's like, wait a minute, I did this a long time ago.
Mhm.
I can't remember when, but I remember doing something like this.
Yeah, and that's why I'm going to like, the conversation we're having, that's exactly what I'm gonna amplify in the world, and they're all gonna be pissed the fuck off because they're gonna be like, "Where did you get this information from? Who do you think you are?" And I'm gonna say, "The spirit said its name is All." because I don't hold any degrees. I operated as a prostitute. So sometimes I'd be like, shit, I can't believe I said that. Where'd that come from? But it sounds correct because I'm invoking thought. I wouldn't say these are the 10 commandments. I don't want to play that game. I'm just telling you this is my journey. This is what I went through. This is what I heard. This is what I think. This is and just invoking thought. Now, go digest that. And it'll probably take 21 days so the crops can finally rise because you're all overeating. Because you're completely unconscious and think. Because nobody is thinking. They're all confined. And nothing confines me, not even the color of my skin. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna go speak to this group because they look like my skin color. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I'm not playing that game. Because I had a man that said that, like, tell black people. I said, I don't wanna hear this shit. If you wanna be honest, I said, I had made a post where I said the black man should learn how to tame black women. And I don't know where that word tame came from because I never said that. And boy, they got mad, like, we're not all animals. And I said, well, actually, you are mammals. So now I see why I said that. I said, but tame can equate to calming, to helping think. For you guys to take that word as I'm saying, beat them. Where the fuck did that come from? I was like, that's what you're equating it to. Now go sit somewhere and ask yourself why you thought taming meant beat. Because that's not what I said. Why would I promote that?
That's the way it is. You see, this is what happens when we start to speak and people are like, that doesn't make any sense. Why are you? It's like, I don't know if you know the rapper Tom McDonald or Dax. These guys are independent. They left the music industry because they didn't want to be selling garbage, and they basically made their own albums. They produced them, they paid for them, they did it all themselves, and because of that, they were ever to make songs like The System, like Dear God, like The Joker, and it talks about like people like, I have met the devil, and the devil was right beside me. But the devil is all within us, and we don't even realize it because we are unconsciously doing things because our past lives have an imprint in us that we haven't let go yet. And when we make peace with that, that's when we become consciously awake.
I had put on my posts, I said, I'm tired of hearing the soul's lost. I said the soul is never lost. The soul is waiting on the mind to balance so it can come in. And I can understand why people are confused because the body can talk, the mind can talk, and then you got the soul. So it's like, who's talking? That's why you're supposed to eat healthy, exercise, so forth, so that the messages are clear. But like how I just said that to you, you get it, but a lot of people don't. And so, like, when I do start talking, people are gonna think, well, she's saying it so easy. And it's like, huh? I was crying in the bathroom, like, please don't make me go out there. I don't want to feel no more pain. Haven't I felt enough? Like, I fucking paid the price. Like, I don't want to feel any pain. Like, I was really crying. Like, please, like, I don't want to talk about this. They're gonna annihilate me. Like, I felt like that movie, The Passion of Christ. Like, I was so scared. And boy, like, I feel like the spirit mentally prepared me because all the attacks on social media, I get over 3,000 comments and I respond to all of them. And I was like, damn, I'm really doing this shit. Like, I didn't think I could. So it's definitely a good mental prepare, I will say, because I remember I was getting so many comments. I was like, I should delete all my videos. I look like a psychopath. And I heard the spirit say, call your friend Rashinda. And I called her and she said, don't you delete them damn videos. She was like, you need to talk to sound people so you can get sound advice. And I said, okay. So that's why I don't confine myself because sometimes I do need an experience with the human where they say some dumb shit and I'm like, yeah, I gotta do this because I gotta fucking help people like you wake up. Like, but what I tell myself, I feel like to get through that is they're fucking possessed by the drugs in their brain. And it is a natural reaction for somebody to experience withdrawal. And that's the part you gotta wait for them to go through withdrawal. And withdrawal can take I'm gonna say what 3 to 6 months maybe, so it's like you're about to have a bunch of people that realize you just took away their heroin. And yeah, it's not gonna be we love you, it's gonna be we fucking hate you and you should die. Like how that somebody going through withdrawals. That's what helps me still speak about this stuff because I'm like, yeah, they're gonna experience withdrawal and they'll thank me in probably like a year, hopefully sooner, but it's fine because you guys are hurting your fucking children. And
Yeah.
that's what makes me I have to speak up because they're hurting the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what definitely amplifies me. So when I cry, I always hear the spirit say, there's a child right now crying. There's millions of children crying right now, and they can't do anything about it. You have to speak up.
Absolutely. Well, what would you say to someone right now who's going through just the awakening process?
Welcome is the first thing. Grab something cold. That's the main thing. That grounds you right away. Grab something cold. It's instant. It instantly calms you down. You could call somebody, but that shit could go worse, or I don't know who you're calling. So just grab something cold, breathe, tell yourself, okay. And I think within 30 seconds, you're going to start having clearer thoughts, but mainly get something cold. A lot of people can't go exercise because they have their kids or it's hot outside or they want to call somebody, but I don't know who the fuck you're calling. They might start polluting you again. So grab something cold. That is the best thing, to grab something cold. You can do that wherever you go. You can find something cold, and you will start getting the messages that you are meant to receive as long as you keep practicing grounding techniques, figure out what works for you. Maybe you can't exercise. Maybe you're a meditator. Maybe you're a writer. So I don't want to tell anybody this is what to do, but I know one thing we can all do that helps, and that is to grab something cold.
Well, thank you very much, Yasmina. This has been a wonderful interview. Wish you nothing but continued success on your journey and much love to you, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing your platform with me.
What a beautiful, grounding conversation. As Yasmina's words continue to settle within you, you may notice a soft shift, a new perspective, a sense of calm, or a reminder that growth doesn't have to be rushed to be meaningful. Today's conversation reminds us that self discovery is not about becoming someone else, it's about remembering, reconnecting, and allowing ourselves to evolve with honesty and compassion. Maybe you felt seen in something Yasmina shared. Maybe you heard a truth that resonated quietly, or maybe simply felt permission to be exactly where you are right now. Whatever stayed with you, trust that it arrived for a reason. So as you step back into your day, take one slow breath and notice what feels a little clearer, a little lighter, a little more aligned within you. Until next time, remember you are the creator of your own story and your soul is the pen. Much love to you all.